Hey there, my name's Neandra, thank you for rejoining me. This week we're going to look at Mercy's Resurrection. This ability now has a delay of 1.75 seconds and can be interrupted by a large portion of the hero roster, including Mercy herself. If I start to res right on the edge of that 5 meter radius and backpedal out of it, I will lose it. I'm not gonna lie, it feels really badly designed, but unless it's changed, we just kinda have to work around it. If either you or your target is on a moving object, be careful. If Lucio's speed boosting, be careful. If you're in Valkyrie mode, be super careful. I have found it especially easy to lose res during it if I move in an upwards direction. When attempting a res, I aim to be against as many walls or cover as possible. A super obvious example of this is most choke points. Let's say we want to revive Orisa. We could stand right in the middle of this doorway and get fucking obliterated, or we can stand to the side. Guardian Angel and Mercy Super Jump are very useful for getting that right angle. Despite what I said earlier, don't think I'm telling you to stand still during res. You generally should be making the most out of the tiny movement you're given, just keep the range stuff in mind. Sometimes an ally will die out in the open but near cover and you can twist yourself around it like this, or backpedal behind it like that. Sometimes no movement might be better, like if you're trying to res from this small crevice on Hollywood, but it's rare. Another technique I like to use is when an ally dies on higher ground. I'll fly to the corpse marker, cancel, and res while slowly falling. Either briefly landing on the platform or pressing space to boot yourself higher is crucial, otherwise it's very easy to fall out of range. During the res animation, the rest of your team is not able to receive healing from you. Since respawn timers generally last 10 seconds, you usually have some time to work with. If another ally is critical, you may want to top them off before attempting a resurrection. Also be careful of teammates who died far away from the rest of the team, especially if a fight is still occurring. If your team's fighting on point A of Hanamura and Widow's picked off back here, can your team afford you flying out, resing and flying back? It's important to ask, do I even want to res this person? It's easier to stagger your team with a poor resurrection. When you revive someone and they just immediately die again, you've basically reset/doubled the respawn timer of that ally, the enemy has got an extra ult charge from killing them a second time, and now your ability is on cooldown. If all 5 allies are dead and every enemy is looking at you, it's almost certainly better to just embrace death or get out of there. Basically, avoid using res in panic. Sometimes it is okay to just die with it. Here's some footage from a placement game. Friendly Zenyatta, who has ult ready, is picked off by Pharah and then enemy Genji uses Dragon Blade. For whatever reason, probably to try and counter Genji, I revive Zenyatta despite 2 other allies also dying. Doing something like this has the potential to work, and like Zen could pop off and win us the fight, but it's risky and unlikely, and in this specific case, I hurt my team. You need to be able to read momentum and realise when your team has already lost the fight. Like, if we're down 2 and they're down 3, go for it. If we're both down 2, okay, you know, just numbers and stuff like that. Be especially careful of reses on defense when the enemy is nearing completion of an objective that causes your spawn point to change. Say you're defending the first point of Hollywood, there's 6 attackers on the objective and your team has lost the fight. Friendly Zenyatta is dead and going to be respawned in 3 seconds. The enemy is going to cap in 5 seconds. You res Zenyatta and he dies again immediately. Instead of respawning here, they're now going to respawn here because the res reset the respawn timer. I consider there to be 3 tiers of res: good, not bad, but not necessarily needed, and negatively impacted my team. When I talk about res in these guides, I like to focus on when not to use it. Sometimes when a fight is over or has not begun yet, you can occasionally get away with saving res and letting the ally come back normally. Okay, so let's say we're on Hanamura, attacking first, and the round begins. Friendly McCree gets stuck in a Junkrat trap placed at the spawn doors and is blown up. Resurrecting him isn't a bad move. If it was round 3 and you only had like a minute to push, yeah, I would totally understand it. That would be very tempting. So pretend we res him and then the team pushes up to the choke. Friendly Widow gets a pick, but we lose our McCree again, like he got stuck in another Junkrat trap. Since we revived him earlier, we have now lost a potential advantage, also he needs to fix his positioning. On defense, you can sometimes get away with saving res after a fight your team has already won, especially if you have spawn advantage. Say you were defending point B of 2 CP. Your team has killed 4 people, but friendly Zenyatta died in the process. The enemy team is going to take a bit to regroup, and it's like, what, a 5-second walk from spawn? If we were defending point A or King of the Hill though, I might res just to be safe. Although a lot of reses will now come from after or before a fight, reviving someone in the middle of one is not impossible.
I can't fucking believe I got away with that.
It's just very, very dangerous. If an enemy wants to attack you mid-fight during res, this means they're likely turning their attention away from something or someone else. If enemy soldier was already putting shots into you, then attempting a res just makes it easier for him to finish you off. But what if he was heavily distracted or your team was applying a lot of pressure? Sometimes the enemy team cannot stop what they are currently doing to go after you, especially if you're positioning well and sticking to the outskirts of a fight. An example would be that first Gibraltar checkpoint. Say your team and the enemy is fighting roughly here and you're here and someone died here. But again, remember you're denying one or more allies healing for almost 2 seconds during a fight, and that can be a phenomenal disadvantage. Also, remember the respawn timer stuff? I want to quickly show you guys this Reddit reply to me. I won't read the whole thing, but basically the enemy team may not be able to spend an entire fight watching over a corpse, so if a res looks risky, consider waiting on it for a few seconds. If the fight still looks good for your team, then consider resing. Because attentions and positions will have been shifted, I get off so many cheeky reses that look like they should be suicidal but actually aren't, just by waiting for the red team to assume I'm not going to go for it. And honestly, I think that's super cool. Ultimately, it is a case-by-case decision and you have to use your own judgment. Be careful of enemies like Roadhog who can afford to tank some damage to disrupt you, or Tracer who can easily reposition. And remember, you have 5 other allies that can assist. Shields from tanks like Winston, Zarya, Reinhardt, Orisa are especially good. Defense matrix is decent, but you basically eat all of it. Hell, even Roadhog just body blocking is pretty good. I really recommend you telling your team over voice chat every time you're going to res, even if it appears to be a safe one. When Resurrection is on cooldown, you can swap off Mercy, swap back, and it will have been reset. This isn't too useful anymore, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. I would only do it if your ult charge is very low. Like, say for example, your team got completely stomped during that first fight and you rezzed someone but then like both died anyway. Last of all, remember that D.Va is revived as a baby and has to get herself back into mech. This leaves her quite vulnerable, and if you're able to, consider healing her through the transform animation. Actually, I don't think this applies to just D.Va. If you can afford to do so, healing someone for a couple of seconds after rezzing them can be very helpful. Sometimes it can be vital for keeping the ally alive long enough to reposition safely. And that's all from me this week. Thank you so much for watching. Next time we'll be looking at positioning and game sense. Also, if you weren't aware, I've been working on a game called Let's Play Manager in my free time. It's a tycoon game about being an online content creator, also known as a YouTuber or Let's Player. I currently have a Twitter account and Discord server set up where I post progress and ask for feedback, so if that interests you, please check out the links in the description. Thanks.